What's up, everybody? Welcome to the next episode of Devin the Bear. Today we're going to be talking about the Calvin Kattar and Giga Chikadze fight. It was a pretty solid card before that. Lots of great fights, not a lot of finishes, but you got Slava Claus still giving out finishes, so that's always good to see that he's so cheerful and jolly. We got Dev on Zoom today. He's a little under the weather, so apologies for the audio. But yeah, let's go ahead and start talking about what the awesome main event to open the year was with Calvin Kattar and Giga Chikadze.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things to talk about with the card, but the main thing is that main event that really held the entire event down. There were some fights that we were just kind of going back and forth with that stuff, but I think that main event was definitely the best thing right there, and I really enjoyed that a lot. Calvin Kattar came in and he really showed that, hey, I didn't really miss much with the Max Holloway fight, and
Yeah, we aren't anyone who counted Kattar out because of what he did with or because of his fight with Max Holloway, but I know a lot of people were thinking maybe Kattar wasn't ready and he's not good enough because of what Max Holloway did. But what Max Holloway did to Kattar is exactly what Kattar did to Giga Chikadze. It was really freaking good. It was really good to see his boxing look so good again. And it was his footwork, I think, that completely shut down the offense of Giga Chikadze, which no one's been able to do that yet.
Yeah, sorry about that. I got distracted. So the whole house pretty much had COVID. So it's been one hell of a past beginning of 2022. But the fight, back to the fight though, it's like what we said last week was, if Calvin Kattar's going to want to come in and of Giga Chikadze's kicks, and he's going to have to close that distance, and he did that so well. I think a lot of people were really counting out Calvin Kattar coming into this fight because of how bad he got shut down against Max Holloway. But, I mean, Max Holloway is the greatest featherweight of all time. Arguably is, we could say the same for Volkanovski, and that's why they look so untouchable when these two guys fight them,
Yeah.
So you have somebody like Calvin Kattar just go in there and just shut down and show that, hey, I'm still a top contender. Giga Chikadze was already, because Max Holloway pulled out of his fight recently with Alexander Volkanovski, and he was calling for a title shot, and the first thing Volkanovski says, well, you have somebody to worry about, and Giga Chikadze he seemed coming into this fight that he was already looking past Calvin Kattar and looking at the title shot and saying, oh, well, he's ducking me, this and that, and he goes in and he gets shut down the entire fight. There was at no point did it really look like that Giga Chikadze was in that fight. It was Calvin Kattar's night, after a year off to come in and put on a performance like that. I mean, it's just, you can't ask for anything better than that.
Yeah. So I would say what the story of the fight was just Calvin being too much pressure for Giga. And anytime Giga would start trying to get anything going, any kind of offense, Kattar would switch up his stance and catch him when he was trying to come in. And it would just completely shut him down. And him having to throw those kicks while backpedaling the whole fight, it just made everything impossible for Giga. It was an uphill battle the whole time. So by the third round, you see Giga, who's already pretty bloodied up, pretty exhausted. And then Kattar, who was looking a little tired. He wasn't as fresh as he was in the first couple of rounds, but he was still able to keep that pace up the entire fight.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't look like he gassed at all. He slowed down. And he did slow down going into that third round. He looked like he was tired, and I was like, damn, please don't tell me you just gassed yourself out, because you're doing so. Because I picked Calvin Kattar and went on the birdie path. That's who, I was like, man, and he was a pretty heavy underdog. He was almost a 4 times underdog to Giga Chikadze, which threw me off. A lot of people are really counting out Calvin Kattar, but I mean, he did get hit, but it was never anything significant. I mean, he landed that spinning back elbow a couple times in the fight as well. He dropped him with it in the second round, I believe, and then hit someone again with it in the fifth round. And he made the fight at that point and said, "Hey, I gotta send him to the hospital. He's taking a lot of damage from this fight."
Those elbows, man. Those elbows were getting pretty freaking wild. I can't believe how many of them he took.
Yeah, he was throwing them. I mean, the way way he was able to close distance, and it was obvious he was just throwing elbows at that point, and he was just landing them with ease. Calvin Kattar's boxing looked incredible. I think that the performance that he put on, also just the way he was, like you said, he's able to cut the distance, cut the cage, and any type of movements that Eagle was trying to put on was getting shut down instantly. And I think that so for Union Cartel MMA, like they needed somebody to come out and put a performance on like that, because Rob Font's last fight, he didn't look very well. I mean, granted, it's against Jose Aldo, one of the best to ever do it, but I think the way that they had got shut down in 2021, 2022 was the year to really bring all that hype back, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So I expect to see Calvin Kattar's name back in the top 5, at least for who his opponent is going to be. Yeah. So that's pretty exciting. A really good way to start off 2022. The next card is equally as exciting. We have it headlined by Francis Ngannou and Cyril Gane for the heavyweight title. Some pretty big names on that card. You have Trevin Giles. He's an exciting up and comer. You have Matt Frevola. You have Tony Gravely. There's Rodolfo Vieira and Wellington Turman are fighting. That's going to be an interesting one. The main card has some pretty big names as well. You have Michael Pereira. You have Cody Stamann. But the co-main event is going to be Brandon Moreno and Davison Figueiredo's trilogy fight. And I'm pretty excited to see how that one goes down. But if I'm being honest, I just haven't seen a weakness in Brandon Moreno when he fights Davison Figueiredo.
Yeah, I mean, he was showing that he can do it all against Brandon Moreno. Against Davison Figueiredo. It's like what I said the second time they fought is, you know, when it comes down to it, it's like they said he was the better jiu-jitsu practitioner, he's a better striker, and we need to put it on paper, right? But what comes down to it is Brandon Moreno is just a better fighter. He gets in there and he makes it his fight very well, and that's what he did. He completely shut down everything that Davison Figueiredo was trying to come in there and do. We don't know what the weight cut's going to be like for him moving into this week. That was kind of a big factor, I feel like, leading into their rematch. Was Davison Figueiredo does a lot of weight, and he does it for somebody who's he's not a very big guy. He's 5'5". He doesn't look like it though. He towers over a lot of these guys. And so with Brandon Moreno, I mean, he put on such a championship like worthy performance whenever he fought Davison Figueiredo in their last fight. So I don't. With Davison Figueiredo, I mean, he's gonna have to go in there and really bring the fight out of Brandon Moreno if he's gonna want to bring that back. But I don't think he's able to do that though against Brandon Moreno.
Yeah, I agree. I think the weight cut is definitely hard for Figueiredo. I think it took me a while to accept that. I was always like, nah, he's always been able to do it. But he's just had so much trouble with it lately that you can't deny it. And yeah, the first fight was a draw. The second fight, Brandon Moreno subbed him with the rear naked choke, I believe. And so, but on the feet, he was just better than Figueiredo, and I feel like that was obvious. And we expected Figueiredo to be able to at least to be able to hang with Brandon Moreno on the feet, but on the ground we expect Figueiredo to win, and Moreno was just a step ahead of him. So with this third fight, I don't know what Figueiredo could do other than like if that weight cut goes really well and we get to see him completely himself, which that's so hard to say because how many fighters really ever get to fight completely healthy and completely themselves? Like that's so hard to do. You just have to be the best version that you can be that night, and that's all Figueiredo can do. So I'm really curious to see how that goes. But I have Moreno by I think submission again.
Yeah. That's what. So with that, I think Moreno is gonna get a TKO this time. I don't see if he's able to stop him. You know, he learned it from his mistakes in the first fight. Because Davison Figueiredo could have won that first fight, and he didn't stop battling Moreno. That was he got a point taken away, which led to the draw. And if he wouldn't have done that, so that's one of the things where it's like, you know, going into the second fight, Davison Figueiredo just assumed that, well, I won that fight. I just lost the point because I was cheating. And he didn't take from the fight and say, well, I didn't win. Let me, learn where I need to pick up at. And And I mean, I think when it comes to Moreno, is he's constantly learning, while Figueiredo believes that he's just that good. He doesn't have to learn anymore. You know, I mean, I could be wrong. It's just that's what he gives off when he talks about himself or his training. But when it comes to the weight cut, I said for a while that he needs to go down weight. He does not. He looks like Christian Bell from Machinist every time he has to go into the weigh-ins. He does not look good. It's just a hard cut, and he's a big guy. I mean, he's a very stocked up guy, very solid looking dude for 145 or 125, excuse me. But when it comes to it, though, I just think Moreno is just constantly just improving, and that's where Dayson falls short, is because he's been so much better than a lot of these guys for so long that it's starting to catch up, you know.
For sure. So you got Moreno by a TKO. I got him by submission. We'll see what happens. The main event, Francis Ngannou and Cyril Gane going. So recently, Francis Ngannou stated he's not going to fight again for the UFC after this, no matter what. And that's pretty disappointing. I guess whatever they've offered him wasn't enough in his eyes, or at least his corner's eyes. You know, his coaches collectively, they didn't think it was enough. So he has said that after this fight, he's not going to fight for the UFC again. So I hope after this because it's a pay-per-view, right? Yeah. After this pay-per-view, I hope that no one buys a pay-per-view from the UFC. But I do hope that everyone buys this pay-per-view, because I want Francis to make as much money as he can off of this. Because if he's stuck in a contract with the UFC, then that's going to suck. I don't know what he's going to do. Unless he loses. And I think he's going to lose. Even if he hadn't made that decision, I think this is just too much mentally on him. And Cyril Gane is such a mental fighter. Like, when you're in the cage with him, everything he does is taking your hope away, taking your strategy away. He's completely taking every weapon you have away from you by using his Muay Thai to completely negate everything that you do. So I think that Francis is just dealing with too much. But that being said, his punching power is so insane. How could you count that out?
So does it kind of remind you of his title fight when he first fought Stipe? Like, he had so much going on and so much star power that it kind of got to his head and became such a big distraction that this might be a distraction as well.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that might become an issue?
Yeah, I do. I mean, this is his whole entire career. This is his future. So that's a lot to put on someone when they have to go defend the title. After everything he's been through, it's very, very disappointing and unfortunate that the UFC is not working with him more. I understand how they are with their contracts, but he's your literal biggest star right now.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, when it comes to the heavyweight picture as well, is the heavyweight sell. These big guys sell, you know, and there's just no hiding that. It's just like, there's a reason why Brandon Moreno isn't headlining the card over Francis Ngannou, you know?
Yeah.
And so, like we talk about, like, you know, with Francis Ngannou, I mean, the guy was at 11 years old digging sands over in his country before he came to Francis, when he lived in Africa, before he came to France, sorry. And so he came to France and did all that. I mean, he's able to just, it's literally like watching a movie whenever you hear his story. And apparently the UFC had said, like, the numbers he was asking for were ridiculously high, which I don't agree with that. I don't think it was that at all.
Yeah.
You know? I know he wanted a couple million, and I think he's worth a couple million. To lose, that's why I want Francis Ngannou to win this fight. I'm a big fan of Cyril Gane, but the thing is, though, is like, Francis Ngannou goes in there because all he needs is one punch. And the person that we saw fight, Stipe Miocic, is a very, very dangerous fighter. He took his time, he picked his shots, he was able to clearly dictate wherever the fight went with that fight, you know. And so, with that being said, because if Francis Ngannou wins and then he loses the promotion, I'm sure there's going to be tons of lawsuits and shit after that, because the UFC is not going to just let him win.
Yeah, absolutely.
As much as they say he is. And So there's gonna be a ton of lawsuits, but then it's like, how do you legitimize your heavyweight championship if your best heavyweight just left the promotion as on top, you know? And
Well,
so there's that as well.
I do think that, or not think, but I'm a big Cyril Gane fan, and
Yeah.
because I love Francis so much, I want him to lose this fight so he can be free.
Like I want him to win this fight just so he can it's even more leverage on his side, you know. And I know that they don't care, but they should care. I mean, they literally, like, you gotta look at their past. They went into lawsuits against guys like BJ Penn and Randy Couture, like legends of the UFC who really helped build the UFC. You know, Randy Couture was part of the era with Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz that really signified what the UFC was. You know, he was up there. He's pretty much like one of the, like, you look at Mount Rushmore of the UFC back in the early 2000s. You know, he's on there, and he wanted to fight another organization, so they started a lawsuit with him because he also wanted to make more money. BJ Penn, he left to because there wasn't enough competition, so he went to go fight over. I want to say he fought in K1. I'm probably wrong on that. I'm not 100%, but he went over there. They started a huge lawsuit with him about that because he wanted to fight all over the world, and they didn't want to do that. And so I have no doubt in my mind that they're going to find a way to keep Francis Ngannou if it's, you know, having to take it to court, but they're definitely not going to pay him more for sure, and they should.
Yeah, I'm definitely concerned for him. But that's going to be Francis Ngannou versus Gane. Let us know your thoughts on the Kattar fight. Let us know your thoughts on what the outcome of UFC 270 is going to be, the main event, Francis Ngannou versus Cyril Gane. Do you think Ngannou stays and fights again if he wins? Do you think if he loses, you think he loses on purpose? What are your thoughts? Let us know on Instagram. Please follow us. Please share. Please like. Do all the things. And y'all take care.